You're listening to another episode of the Coaster 101 podcast. I'm Andrew Stillwell, and if you've been following the amusement park news in recent weeks, you will notice that Carowinds, my home park, we talk about it on the podcast a lot, they just announced a new record-breaking water attraction, Rip Roarin Falls. I had the opportunity to go to the announcement, and as these announcements go, a lot of times you have the opportunity to kind of interview, people who are involved with the project. Ken Parks with Six Flags, who's their creative director. I think he's got a fancier title than that. He was there. Bridget Bywater, the new park president, was there. And then David Chesney, who is an engineer with Whitewater, he was also there to kind of talk about the attraction itself. And, to be cognizant of David's time, to be cognizant of everybody else's time who was there at the announcement to kind of get their coverage, get their footage. I talked to David for a little bit, but I was like, okay, this is something that needs to happen, and it needs to be more than like a 4-minute snippet of an interview that I would put at the bottom of a blog article. So, fortunately, David enjoyed talking to me so much in those 3 to 4 minutes that he has agreed to come on the podcast. So please welcome to the Coaster 101 podcast, as I said, an engineer from Whitewater, David Chesney. David, welcome to the Coaster 101 podcast.
Thank you very much. Excited to be here.
We're thrilled to have you. And, again, going back to that announcement last week, Carowinds they're hitting a home run here. This is something that came exclusively, or they said, from guest feedback. And I know I took the survey all those years ago that was like, record-breaking water ride. We want this type of attraction. And lo and behold, in 2027, it will open. But before we get into Rip Roarin Falls and all the good things that Whitewater's doing up north, I want to talk about you because I've looked at your LinkedIn. I've stalked you a little bit. Forgive me. That's what I do. But you got to know who you're interviewing, right? I want to know. Let me get your personal history. I know you've had a couple of stops in the industry. You had your first job, I believe, was at Canada's Wonderland. But for our audience who might not know the name David Chesney, tell us who you are.
Yeah, first and foremost, I'm just a big theme park nerd. It's been my passion since I've been a little kid. Canada's Wonderland was my home park, so growing up, going there, really spurred my interest for the industry. I got to look at all these rides that were being built. Watching the B&M Hypers come in, then the Gigas, seeing those announcements was just incredible. It was so cool to get to see that in my backyard, and from that led me towards choosing a career path, and that led me towards engineering. So that kind of really gave me that edge of going, okay, what is it? How do I build these things? I know I wanted to do that. I grew up, building Connects and Lego. And so building was always in my DNA, and I liked the roller coasters. So between those two, I realized if I went into an engineering field or a type of engineering, I can start to head in that direction for a career. And yeah, that kind of led me down that road. Like you said, my first job was Canada's Wonderland, and it was not on a ride. I was 15 and working in merchandise there. So working the Halloween Haunt event, selling little light up trinkets and toys and stuff like that. But I just wanted to be close to the rides. I could stare at them. I could watch how they worked. I could learn about what they're made of, what's coming. And that really just led me down this rabbit hole, if you will, or this passion project of a career. And yeah, through that, I've ended up in a number of different companies working on different rides for various parks around the world. I've been so fortunate to get to travel around the world for some of these rides, see different places. And yeah, that's led me now to working at Whitewater and working on these pretty cool water rides.
Yeah, and I definitely want to get into Whitewater, but there's a couple of things I've got to ask here. Again, you mentioned you're an amusement park fan, you're a coaster fan. What's your favorite coaster?
I think it's got to be Maverick over at Cedar Point. I don't even know how to explain why. I think it was the time in my life when I got to try it when it first came out, and I think what really struck me with it was the packaging. Right, it's not. It wasn't the biggest. It wasn't the fastest. It wasn't the X record breaking coaster, but it packed such a punch, and I thought that was so cool and creative. Right, it's easy with a big asterisk to make the biggest, the best, slap a title on it. And it's so fun to get to do those. But to kind of really compact that, make it into such a unique package and such a thrilling, those turns, those quick quick twists. Really, just it was super fun, and I thought that was just a really cool concept. The double launch, all of it was really fun to me as a kid.
Yes, and I love Maverick too. I've got to ask though, while you were at Carowinds, through any of this process, either the announcement or working with the park, have you gotten to ride Fury yet?
Oh my god, yeah, that was
Okay.
crazy.
Okay. Cool. I have to ask
Of
because
course.
I'm like the roller coaster guy at work, and they're like, "What's your favorite roller coaster that you've ever been on?" And I'm like, "It's a, it's a unfair pick because my favorite coaster is like 45 minutes away in my backyard. Like it is. It's amazing. I have also I'm again LinkedIn stalking here, and if you're able to discuss this, great. If not, we can cut it. But you had some stops at on your resume at Dynamic Attractions and also Martin and Vlemix. Are you at liberty to discuss any of the attractions you worked on for either of those companies, or would you rather me not?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest one I worked on, and I think one of my most proud career accomplishments up to this point, was at Dynamic Attractions. I worked on Mission Ferrari over in Ferrari World Abu Dhabi. And that was such a wild experience to get to do that. I mean, it's a project that, it had its pitfalls, it had its troubles that were well known. It took a number of years to get it finished. But to have that perseverance, one as a company, and two from the engineering team as people, to really keep pushing, keep taking on one challenge after another, and to make a product like that had never been done, right? It really was the first of its kind, and in doing so brought the challenges, but getting to overcome that was so cool. And the product speaks for itself. I mean, again, it has its issues, it has its some technical challenges that came with that project, but overall, what a fun coaster to all those launches, backwards, forwards, tilt and drop, sideways switch, backwards loop. It was really just such a cool experience, and getting to go live over there for a number of years to keep working on that was so cool and gave me such a unique life experience. So I'm really proud of that coaster.
For sure. Well, speaking of being proud of coasters, the last coaster related thing, and I'm going to get into Rip Roarin Falls, I promise. You you're somewhat of a unique. I mean, these exist in the world. They're getting fewer and further between. You built a backyard roller coaster.
I did, yes.
Okay, I gotta know about this. Like how long ago was this? How old were you? What went into that?
I was it 15 or 16 when I started, and I was in high school at the time. And it was right around when I started working at Canada's Wonderland. And it was kind of that culmination of I realized I wanted to build these things. There was some scrap wood in the house. There was a few skateboard wheels. And it kind of started with that idea of like, I saw some videos online of people doing things like that. And, I'm a 16-year-old kid. I was like, I could do that. Why not? Why wouldn't I be able to do that? I didn't think about the not. It was, sure, let's give it a shot. And it grew over 4 years into what became that final coaster, the Minotaur, as I called it. And it really just was a fun trial and error thing. It was me, borrowing a saw from my uncle and some tools and some wood from Home Depot, and just throwing it together, seeing what worked, what didn't. And it was great. It was such a fun experience. Not that everyone should do that. It had its risks, and of course, legal complications that I'm sure the city was not fond of. But overall, just as a passion project, and as something, a challenge for a young engineering mind, was cool, because you could try, and I could try and fail and learn, and there was no judgment, no. It wasn't for a job where I had a deadline to hit, and it wasn't for school where there was a grade attached to it. It was just, let's learn for the sake of learning. And in doing that, I mean, I learned so much about ride design, about carpentry, about wood, metal. I learned how to weld at a job I had in the summer, one of those summers, to build the vehicle. So adding all those together uh, led to that project, and really was just so fun. I mean, it was a cool thing to have on my resume, and very proud of that one as well.
Perfect. I love it. Well, speaking of the resume, you have been a water rides engineer with Whitewater for almost 2 years at this point. And I know you're not necessarily the marketing guy who has like the history of the company dialed in. You very well might. I don't know. But I know from what I know, Whitewater kind of cut their teeth in the water park side, slides, water slide attractions, things like that. And they've been around up in Canada for almost 50 years. It looks like 46 years at this point. What have I missed on the Whitewater history? Is there anything else you can let our audience know?
From the history, I mean, it's the company's been around. I think it's something like 45 years now. They were a pioneer in the water slide industry, and our department within Water Rides ourselves is just trying to carry on that legacy of improving, innovating, and creating new products, and taking stuff that water slides, water rides are not new inventions per se, but taking them and supercharging them, making them into something new, bringing them into 2026 with a fresh new life. And I think that's really exciting to get to take something that's a classic. So it was in the original Roller Coaster Tycoon. They have the log flume there, right? Everyone knows of them,
Hmm.
but giving it that modern twist. And so I think that's really where Whitewater is coming forward these days.
Yeah, and I think it's made possible in recent decades. There have been some acquisitions that kind of allowed Whitewater to expand from beyond just the water park, the water slide. Um, I know there are proper industry terms, but I know them as water slides, and I know there's beyond just water slides things that Whitewater does. But you mentioned kind of the log flume not being a new concept, right? Again, Roller Coaster Tycoon, it's been it's water slide, the log flume is not a new concept, right? How do you think Whitewater has been able to kind of innovate on this technology?
There's a number of ways that it has been innovated on. One is going from the traditional log flume to what is now our super flume model. So expanding the boat from 4 people to 8 people, making it wider, and then adding in certain track elements like switches is novel, right? The original log flumes never had that. They went up, they went down, great fun, awesome time for the family. Now we have track switches. We can add specific motion profiles. We can theme the rides with those track switches, with our lifts, with our drops, with geysers, with special effects. We can add in all these different elements that modern technology has brought us to make the ride really just another step up from what was originally there, right? It's no longer just going up and down a hill. It's a story we can bring to you. And it doesn't just have to be for those big, the big parks, if you will. Every park can have something like this. And that's really special because these are rides that I think families have loved since they've come out. And there's something really just intrinsically fun about floating down a river, going up a hill, and then coming a big splash on the way down.
Right. And I know the super flume itself is kind of a new-ish concept. Looking online, there's a handful I think that have been built kind of around the world that kind of share this what I'm going to call a V shape, and it's got multiple drops. Is it three of those that have been built? Vietnam, South Korea, and Australia.
I believe so. I'm trying to remember if there's others, but those are for sure the three that I would name off the top of my head.
That's what I saw on the website, so we're going to go with it.
Yeah.
Um, I want to know again. We've got this announcement at last week at Carowinds. The park is kind of teasing what's in the woods, and if you knew the right places to look on the internet, and we love playing along with a good marketing teaser just as much as everybody, you'll know that this attraction was originally planned for 2026. According to press releases, things like that, it got pushed to 2027, and it is a record breaker. There are three world records here that are being broken. I want to know, and again, this is somebody I'm not super familiar with the super flume. I'm not well traveled enough to have been to Vietnam or South Korea or Australia yet. Shame on me. It's typical American enthusiast. It's what I am. How does the Rip Roarin Falls take that similar lay? I'm assuming it's a very similar layout, but how is Rip Roarin Falls different from those previous iterations?
Yeah, there's a number of key differences that we've added into this ride that have never been done before.
Mhm.
The first being a new type of switch. So we actually have 2 new types of switch on this ride. One that the guests will interact with on every cycle. Those are our high-speed reversing switches. So in those switches, like we were saying before, where we can add motion profiles if we want, and depending on the client's needs. So on this project, it's going to take you forward, turn you, and send you out backwards again, but do so in a high-speed manner. And what we've done is tied that machinery that we've developed with this switch into the theming that Carowinds wanted for the ride. So integrating those two together was fairly unique. The other switch we do or we have on this ride is called the station lateral switch, and that's used for guests with disabilities or guests that need a little extra time loading onto the vehicle. we want to keep capacity for this park as a priority. And so having the switch where we can pull a boat aside, give the guests the time and space they need and the help they need to get on so that everyone can enjoy this attraction, while at the same time allowing other boats to keep passing through and keep that capacity up, was a unique challenge for us, but also something that is really rewarding and allows that inclusivity for more guests, which is very special to us.
For sure. And again, these three world records, it's not every day. And like you mentioned earlier, every park is wanting to build the kind of the EST attraction, the tallest, the fastest. It's not every day you can get three legitimate world records. And again, no offense to my friends who work in theme park marketing, who deal with marketing copy. Some of the world records are sometimes fudged and made up and, you know, shoehorned in there a little bit. This is a legitimate world record. It has got 100-foot drop, which I believe is the tallest drop of any log flume style attraction. I've got the other two records here because I'm gonna butcher the heights, but it's the tallest reverse drop, which is 42 feet, and also the tallest reverse camelback, 32 feet. And you know, as you're meeting with Carowinds and Six Flags corporate, and you're building these attractions, how important was it to them to kind of say, we know you've built this product in Vietnam and Australia and South Korea. How can we make it bigger? How can we make it better? How can we break records with this attraction? How does that conversation go?
It's really just a conversation, right? We sit down with Carowinds, we sit down with the park, and we say, "What do you want?" And they come out to us and say, "We are looking for this XYZ. We want a record breaker. We want a new attraction. We want something." They had the plot of land where they were looking for it to go, and we could take our ride system and customize it to fit their needs. And then in terms of the records, it was, yeah, what records do you want to break? We can offer these things. We think these are some good challenges for us that we can accomplish in timelines they want, budgets they want. And those are all the considerations, of course, in any engineering project. So the feasibility was there, the desire was there from the park, and the engineering prowess was there from us. And so between those three, we were able to achieve these three world record breakers that I think are going to be really exciting. I mean, I know I'm very excited to go on it. It's just 100-foot drop is going to be awesome.
It's going to be insane. And, admittedly, I'm not a huge water park, water ride person. I like my thrills to be dry, and then I get in my car and I'm not sitting in wet clothes and wet shoes. But, you know, my frame of reference is something like a Splash Mountain or Tiana's Bayou Adventure. And you look that up and you're like, that's like a 45-foot drop. That's like a 50-foot drop, something in there. And this is twice that, which is pretty insane to me as a fan. And even better that it's going to Carowinds, kind of like the conversation I have about Fury. It's like, that's in my backyard. I am local to that. I get to have that at my home park, which is awesome. The previous Super Flume models, that major, finale drop, how tall are we talking there? How many feet are we gaining on that on Rip Roarin Falls?
I don't know the number off the top of my head, and I apologize for that.
That's okay.
But I know that we're certainly breaking that number by a non-zero margin. It is not. It's substantial, and like you said, you can think of the rides you know of already, almost double. So it's going to be stomach churning to say the least.
I love it. I want to talk about the concept of log flumes and water rides in general in the industry, and I feel like, Whitewater is in a position now where they're bringing these new iterations of the log flume, of the shoot the shoots attractions like this to market. They're also with the super flume boats. I know Dollywood just added those to their log flume this past season, I believe. I want to talk a little bit. They're closing more than they're opening. Why do you think the Super Flume product is kind of so attractive for a park to open in the year 2026 when, I feel like the same week that Rip Roarin Falls was announced, a Shoot the Shoots up at Hershey Park announced they was closing. So I feel like not as many more parks are closing these old classic attractions than opening new ones. Why do you think the Super Flume is kind of the solution for that?
Well, I think it's two different angles to approach this question from. One would be from a maintenance perspective, right? The shoot's been around, and a lot of these log flumes since let's say the 80s, 90s. They've been put in and lived through their life cycle of a ride. And they take substantial amounts of maintenance only because you are dealing with water. So once you have water, you add that complexity of corrosion. So there's the issue of parks needing to invest in maintenance, and that's not cheap and it's not easy. But the other side of this is that guests love these attractions still. I mean, a shoot the shoot is still a crowd favorite till 2026, and parks know that. So it's not an easy decision when they go to take these things out. And the other side of it is that parks have a number of roller coasters. Most of them have more than one. And
Mhm.
so the maintenance team is really well versed on maintaining those types of rides. There's a lot of consistency that can be used across those different rides, so it can make maintenance easier. With a water ride, there's usually maybe one or two in a park. So there is a special challenge to needing maybe custom parts, custom maintenance procedures that are unique to those attractions. And again, an old ride from the 80s or 90s has kind of lived through its life. So in that, you can see why those are coming starting to come down a little bit. The other side of it is we're trying to solve those issues with our new products. So when they go to put in these new water rides, we're using stainless steel to try to prevent corrosion on a lot of these components, make their maintenance easier, swappable components. So you can take one out and put one back on, and you don't need to go and get a custom piece that's some machine shop that needs to make it in a certain way. And all of those are just trying to solve the problems that we've noticed from back in the day. But more than anything, I mean, yes, they are taking them away, but like I said, they're really, really hard to take away only because guests love them. And so we're seeing that we can fill that gap and still provide that classic, fun, thrilling elements, or thrilling ride, I should say, to parks that may have to take away those old rides, but can now replace them with something modern and arguably better. We'll see. I think
Hey,
so.
listen, you guys are behind it. It's going to be better. Stand on business. Let's do it. I'm here for it, right? And you mentioned, kind of that guest feedback, and we're standing in Harmony Hall that day. Park President Bridget Bywater gets on stage and is like, "Hey, our fans took this survey, and far and away in MPS scores, surveys, the emails the park gets. This is what our fans want. What does it mean to you to kind of be able to be the provider of what so many Carowinds fans have been clamoring for, we'll call it years. I mean, there was a time up until recently that there wasn't a water ride on the dry side of the park at Carowinds between 2019 and 2025. And there's only been a handful of, as you mentioned, 2 to 3 water rides at a time in the park. What does it mean to you to be able to be the one to be like, we got this. We're bringing it to you.
I think I'm going to speak on behalf of my whole team here because
For
it's not
sure.
just me. I'm part of I'm one piece of a very big puzzle or a very big pie, if you will, of engineers that are all working really hard. And I just know from my experience here that we're all so proud to get to bring these products to life. And I know that because we watch guests' reaction once they go on them. We've opened up other rides in the past, and you just get to see the laughs, the smiles, the happiness. You see mom, dad, the kids, everyone, whoever the family is, all together on a boat, just having the best time. And what a special treat that is as a from a career point of view, right? We get to that's my reward at the end of the day. That's what I come to work and get to bring to the world. And so I think it's not just from Carowinds. I'm more than excited to get to bring that to your home park and to come see the Carolinians
Yeah.
have the best time on this ride. And so, yeah, it's going to be really special. The other side too is that it is a homage, right? The name Rip Roarin Falls comes from the old ride that was there. So getting to replace, I'll tell you a funny story. Actually, was on my way into the park that day, that first morning. I got in an Uber from the airport and was talking to my Uber driver, and he, without me mentioning the new water ride, I was saying like, "What do you think of Carowinds? What were some fun rides? Like, what do you like?" He brought up that the old was it Rip Roarin Rapids, right? The
Yep.
old Whitewater Rapids ride, and it was so exciting to me because I'm like, yeah, I just wait till you hear this announcement. I couldn't say anything, but I held it in and was like, you're going to be so excited because he was raring about how much fun he used to have with his family on this ride. And his kids have grown up now and he wants to go back. So I can really see, and even just from that one conversation, could see what it means to the local population there and just, I think, to the greater theme park populace, to the enthusiasts, to everyone that it's going to be really fun.
I think so. And I think it is, you mentioned capacity as a key. I think when we were on the construction tour, they mentioned there's going to be 13 proper term here. Are we calling them logs? Are we calling them boats? What is the preferred nomenclature that we're going with here?
I would call them boats, but logs work too. It's the theme.
It is 100%. And there's going to be 15 of those constantly going. Those North Carolina summers, South Carolina summers in the Carolinas for the Carolinians, they're hot, and it is going to be a great respite from that summer heat for sure. And another thing you mentioned is kind of taking that name from previous Carowinds attractions. Not only was there Rip Roarin Rapids, but their shoot the shoots way back where Copperhead Strike is now used to be Whitewater Falls, not Splashwater Falls. That's a different park. Whitewater Falls. So we got Rip Roarin Rapids. We got we've got the falls from the other one that I've already forgotten the name. This is one of those things. It's crazy. But there is a kind of the theme where you can, again, pay homage to the past. One of the original Carowinds park attractions was a log flume over where Thunderstriker is now. So it is cool where you kind of get to you bring elements of the past into the future, into 2026, which as fans I can appreciate, because again, it was the powder keg log flume, then it was wild thornberries, now it's Harmony Hall and Intimidator / Thunderstriker, and then it was Rip Roarin Rapids, now it's Rip Roarin Falls and Whitewater Falls. Like, it's so cool that you guys get to bring this together, and I'm, again, as someone who is a fan of Carowinds, I'm very excited. I want to talk a little bit about the theming. I know this is primarily a Six Flags thing, but in house at Whitewater, do you guys have the theming team, or is that outsourced to Six Flags or another company who will do kind of bring those raccoons and those animatronics to life?
Yeah, the animatronics and the theming of that nature comes from the park, and they
Okay.
work with whatever their teams are to bring those in. But really, what happens is we work with the park collaboratively on what they want the themes to look like, because our boats are still themed to match the style. So we've designed our logboat to make sure that it matches the thematic elements they want. We match our ride systems, so we can do that from a control system side, from a mechanical point of view. We can make the profiles, the motion profiles, all of that in sync with the ride system, or sorry, I should say with the show system. But the animatronics themselves and the decorations, the theming, all of that it originates and comes from Carowinds and what they want out of this ride. And so we just follow along and work with them to make sure the ride matches what they're looking for.
I love it. And, there's been a good emphasis, I feel like, in recent years from Six Flags, Legacy Cedar Fair, now Six Flags parks on storytelling. And, we've got the backstory of the Holes Brothers Logging Company. It might be haunted, might be not. We're going to see, but there's raccoons involved. It's going to be great.
Those
Whenever,
critters are up to no good, that's for sure.
exactly, whenever you've got raccoons causing mischief, anything can happen. It is great. You mentioned your team at Whitewater. How big is the team up there, and how, obviously you guys, this is not the only project you're working on any given time, but how big is your team, and how many people are kind of working on this project?
Our teams, I believe we're up to 15 or 16 people now within our department. But of course, we're part of a much bigger
Right.
company, Whitewater, that has 6 different departments or divisions that are all working at the same time on different projects. And and really, the project depends on what state it's in. So at some points, we influx and we had a lot more people, a lot more engineers on it. And then at other times where the design side, let's say, is wrapping up, then we can kind of shrink and I'll move on to other projects while construction's going on. And then we have different people. So even though our department of engineers is small, like I said, we're part of a bigger team and there's other departments that come in to help. And so, I mean, that's really what makes Whitewater such a cool place to work is we have resources from other departments we can lean on. So we don't just have to stay insular. We can go to the structural department. We can go to controls and mechatronics. We can work with theming if we needed to do that. And our shop, we have manufacturing capabilities. So we'll do testing and stuff like that in house here as well. And kind of getting to do all that and work together uh, makes these projects come true.
I love it. And I've got to ask a little bit about the logs themselves. I know this is, again, I'm assuming there is a standard chassis on this vehicle. It's themed appropriately. I have to ask the question. This is not fear mongering. This is not meant to be, weird in any kind of way. This is more of a set the general public's mind at ease. I look at the kind of the wheel assembly on these logs, and there is a portion where you're going backwards, where you hit that kind of that camelback. And we brought up Roller Coaster Tycoon earlier, so I feel like I have to ask this question. You get the water slide. You realize if you create kind of a camel humpback, you got to enclose that. But these logs, they've got guide wheels and road wheels on them, where this will not be an issue. Correct?
And we have upstops.
Upstops.
So
That is the actual wheel I was looking for.
that's the one. So we do have upstops on these vehicles, and you are fully contained. So not only do we have the boat being contained, we have lap bars for each seat. So everyone gets their own lap bar they pull down, and all of that makes sure you stay in the boat and get to enjoy the experience, get to feel a little bit of that stomach floater, but stay within the boat and make sure you get down and have a nice splash at the bottom.
Perfect. Like I said, I knew the answer to that. I have to do my due diligence as a pseudo journalist and actually ask the question. So, um, you know, looking forward to 2027. That is the opening timeline we have. We don't have a season. We don't have a date. I'm not going to ask you that. That's going to come from Carowinds later. We've got to get the thing built first. Um, when this ride opens, outside of standing at the exit, watching guests presumably soaked get off with laughs and smiles and, oh my gosh, that was amazing, I have to get in line again, what are you looking forward to most?
I think ultimately it's just getting to try it, right? It's new because it's a world record breaker, so it's new for the world, but it's new for us. We haven't been on a 100-foot drop yet. We know what it takes. We've done the engineering, we've done the design, we're going to do the commissioning, and then we get to go on it. And I'm just so excited to kind of feel that sensation. What does a 100-foot drop in a super flume feel like? I know what I think it's going to feel like. I know what the math says it's going to feel like, but I think going on it is going to be a whole different experience, and I'm so excited.
As you and your team do the commissioning process, do you just suit up with a poncho and just ride laps, or how do you stay dry during this process, or maybe you don't stay dry, you're just like, bring it on, I want to get wet?
You have to have a little bit of that attitude in my department. There's no way around it. You're working on water rides, you will get wet, and that can make for some fun challenges. I'm sure Carolina in the winter is going to be a little bit cold, but it's what we do, and we've done it around the world. I've done it in places where it's super hot and it's 50 degrees Celsius, 120 odd Fahrenheit, and it's actually quite refreshing to go splash down in the water. And then there's going to be other times where it's near freezing and you have to chip away the ice to get the water moving again. But we do what we have to do, and we make sure we test every scenario. So as part of that, yeah, you wear a jacket, you wear a poncho if you try not to get wet, but part of it is just the nature of the job. And not many people get to say that as part of their job.
Listen, other duties as assigned, right? I think that's what they put on every job application now.
Yep.
I love it. And I think there's a funny story. I've written features on Carowinds water park in the past, and I know one of the slide towers. I don't remember which one, and I don't know if it's a Whitewater one, so forgive me. But I do know that they tested it in the winter, so this is not new and unfamiliar territory for Carowinds. I think Jerry Helms, who was the longtime VP of operations for the park back when he was, several years younger, I think he went down the slide and there was snow on the ground or ice. I'd have to go back and find this story. So, the good news is the Carolina winters, they can be a little unforgiving, but fortunately they can also be pretty mild. Hopefully you're going to be okay on this commissioning process.
Either way, we're going to have a good time doing it, and it's going to be fun going down that drop one way or the other.
I love it. Well, I've got, anything else before we wrap this up that you think our audience should know? Obviously, we're looking forward to it. We were very excited when the announcement happened. Again, getting a triple record breaker in my backyard is amazing. But anything else that we need to know?
It's not that there's anything specific to know. I think it's just to get excited. I know I'm excited. I know my team is more than excited to get out there and get this thing going. And it's just been a really fun process all the way through. It's been so cool getting to meet yourself, getting to meet other people at the Carowinds media event, seeing fans of the park, seeing people from the park, and yeah, just overall, I'm just very thankful that this is my job, that I get to do this every day, and I hope that anyone listening who gets to go on this ride next year has just the best time. And bring your family. This is meant for kids and adults alike. It's not just for the thrill seekers. It's for the whole family, and I think everyone's just going to have an amazing time on this attraction.
Yeah, you actually brought up a really good point that I want to speak to. It's the height requirement for this attraction is like 35 inches, 38 inches, somewhere in there. 35 inch, 35 accompanied and 42 alone, which is crazy. There's a 100-foot drop that a toddler who is 2 feet 11 inches, or for the metric system, around a meter tall, a little over, right around a meter tall. They get to go over this hill and like experience the thrills at that age and that size, which to me is amazing. And you guys are building the next generation of thrill seeker there.
Absolutely. I mean, that's how I got my start. I have a picture of me on the little coasters as a kid, and I'm hoping that in 15, 20 years' time, there's engineers coming up that started with maybe their first ride or their first memory of a theme park was going on Rip Roarin Falls. And if that is the case, wow, that will be something truly special.
I love it. Well, David, thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to direct people to Carowinds' website, their socials, carowinds.com, @Carowinds, anywhere you can consume it. There will presumably be construction updates. At Coaster 101, we'll try to have the construction updates too. But if people wanted to learn a little bit more about Whitewater, where can we send them?
Whitewater's website's always a great resource. We have tons of information about what we're working on, what's coming out, news, and all of our product lines, all of the divisions. We have so many different exciting divisions that are working on different things at any given time. So definitely check out our website. You can also follow Whitewater on all the socials, and that's where you'll get all the updates from what's going on within our company.
Perfect. And that is whitewaterwest, WEST.com. And we'll link that in the show notes as well, along with Whitewater socials and everything. But, we're thrilled. We're very excited that we get a first of its kind in the U.S. attraction coming to Carowinds. Like I said, record breaker. I got to read these stats because just reading them, even after experiencing the media day, we've got, 2,240 feet of track. We've got a 6.5 minute ride duration. So you're going to be on this ride for a little bit, and it's going to be awesome. Again, the tallest drop on a flume ride of 100 feet, tallest reverse drop, 42 feet, tallest reverse camelback, 32 feet, and a top speed of 50 miles per hour on a water ride. David, like you said, this is the math tells you what it's supposed to feel like, but we've never experienced anything like this.
No. And we're going to.
Hey, that's what we love to hear. Well, if you're looking for construction updates and Carowinds doesn't have them, head to coaster101.com. We've got a write-up about Rip Roarin Falls. We got to tour the construction site. We're going to be at the park throughout the 2026 season. So coaster101.com, also @Coaster101 on any social media. We'll have the updates there. If you're listening to the show and happen to enjoy it, really enjoy the interview with David, give us a like, give us a follow, a 5-star rating on Spotify, iTunes, a review, something that will drive more people to listen to this podcast, because the more people who continue to listen, the better chance of getting great guests like David onto the show. So really it's on you at this point so we can continue to get great guests. As always, coaster101.com/merch for our latest and greatest Coaster 101 merch that may or may not be inspired by theme parks. And then a special shout out to Justin Mabry of JM Entertainment for our theme music. But David, next time you're back in the Carolinas, let me know. We're gonna have to grab some barbecue or something.
Absolutely. You got to tell me where the good places to eat are there.
We will. That's a whole podcast episode. But we'll definitely get to it. But that's going to do it for this week's episode of the Coaster 101 podcast. And we will talk to you again soon.